Hello, everyone. Dr. Frankie here, and I am so happy to be here with you all talking about a topic that actually comes up in my practice on a regular basis. So I thought I would try to answer this question for folks. And the question is how to know if you should go on a second date. This is a popular one, so listen up. We all know what kind of a date we'd like to have. It instantly feels like we've known each other for decades. You talk and you laugh all night and you agree you have to see each other again as soon as possible. You know, as soon as you close the door behind you that you found your person and everything will be fine from here on out. Of course, most of our dates aren't looking like this these days, and I don't think they even looked like that in the past. Maybe some of us have never had the experience of having that kind of date. Most of our dates are basically fine. We think the other person's nice and they think the same of us. We have some interesting points of conversation and some awkward pauses. Maybe we kiss goodnight. Maybe we politely hug. When we close the door behind us after getting home, we're not instinctively sure what our next steps are. And this is all pretty normal. On the one hand, if we didn't feel an instant overwhelming connection, is it a sign we shouldn't bother? On the other hand, if they meet enough of the basic things we're looking for, shouldn't we give it a second chance and see if maybe a spark develops? Do we like them, or are they just a nice person? So we're thinking we should give them another chance. It can feel paralyzing to try to figure out what you even want. You aren't alone. It can be hard to figure out whether something is worth taking the next steps on. And here's what I really recommend asking yourself when deciding if you want to go on a second date. Did you have a good time? Or did you not have a bad time? Especially if we've been in the dating scene for a while, it can skew our perceptions. We can leave a date feeling like that went well, when what we really mean is that it wasn't bad. It wasn't as bad as the dates we'd been on. It can be generally difficult to parse out the difference, especially if we've gone on several dates back to back that have been kind of disappointing. What moments of pleasure or joy did you experience during your time together? Are there specific instances you're looking back on fondly or feel butterflies about? When did you laugh or blush? Like, I mean, authentically laugh or blush and not just offer a response to your date, right? Showing them that you're having a pleasant time. If you can come up with several examples, not just things that seem intellectually like a good sign, that's something to be aware of. And you want to listen to that. Do you find yourself wanting to continue the conversation? Thinking about the conversation you had with your new date, it's okay if it didn't always flow seamlessly, or there were moments that were silent, or if you had some hiccups and maybe said something that you were a little bit embarrassed about. But are you finding yourself thinking about continuing it? Like you're curious, you want to learn more about the person? Finding the link to the news article you mentioned and sending it to them to explain what you meant and maybe get a response from them? Did you remember another experimental jazz artist you wanted to recommend but couldn't think of in the moment and wanted to let them know? Did you watch the latest episode of that show and want to hear what they think of it? In practice, a relationship is really just a conversation you agree to have indefinitely. A successful long-term relationship is a conversation that goes on forever. Someone that you can talk to easily and whose thoughts and opinions you want to keep hearing about is a great indicator of real potential. So if you walk away from a date being curious about what their thoughts might be about something you just saw that came up in conversation on your date, that's telling. Does this person have any of your must-haves, any of your deal breakers? These are things that you should have thought of beforehand, of course. So I want you to be really familiar with what your must-haves and deal breakers are, and making sure that they're not too long. There aren't more than 6 total. Although it's great to find an immediate spark or chemistry with someone, our romance-obsessed culture can give us the impression that it's the only thing that matters, which is how many of us end up with people who aren't compatible with us over and over again, right? Because we're looking for that, like those big sparks, and we feel like, wow, because there's chemistry right off the bat and attraction, that must mean that they're the one. In actuality, what I've seen in over 2 decades of my work is that it actually is not the case. That's usually not really the best formula for success long-term. If you're having trouble deciding whether someone is genuinely a good fit or just someone more or less nice, A good way to keep your goals for a relationship in sight is to keep your list of must-haves in relationships and deal breakers top of mind, like in the front of your mind. Making a list of green flags and red flags is a good start. You can choose 3 of those to become non-negotiables or signs of someone isn't right. Returning to that list and looking at where a new date falls on it can help cut through the dreamy haze of chemical attraction, like oxytocin and dopamine and serotonin. Right? Those are chemicals that make us feel euphoric, make us feel like we want to be close. Oxytocin really makes us feel like we want to see that person immediately after the first date, especially if there's chemistry. What might future time with this person look like? We don't need to start planning our whole lives with someone after meeting them once, but you can start thinking about what it might look like to date them further. Do you have shared interests you could plan dates around, or interests that aren't shared but you'd like to try doing together? Do you want your pool shark date, for example, to teach you how to play pool? How would this person fit into your inner circle of friends? Like thinking about your friends, and do you visualize them meeting your friends and your friends liking them and them liking your friends? Will they want to go clubbing every weekend while you stay in and perfect your sourdough loaf? How would that feel to you? Does their communication style so far feel like a natural fit with yours? If not, is that an area that could be productive to grow and try new things in? It's worth thinking through what an even partially shared life could look like. And don't be scared to do that. It doesn't mean you're like a weirdo or you're like rushing the process. It's being thoughtful and getting quiet with yourself so that you can get clarity. Notice where there are natural overlaps or fits and where there might be some friction. How would you feel if you found out you would never see this person again? So this is a really good exercise, kind of tests you to see what feelings and thoughts come up. In the end, the decision about whether you want to see this person again may come down to getting in touch with your own intuition. Ask yourself, if you found out tomorrow that for some reason you couldn't see this person again, for reasons that don't reflect on you personally, they just found out they're getting relocated for work, for example, or a family member needs them to come care for them, they have to travel out of the country suddenly, what would your instinctive reaction be? Notice whether you feel a twinge of regret or frustration, even if it's a feeling of missing out on a chance to see what would have happened with this person. That might be a feeling worth listening to. Ultimately, a second date is a gesture towards seeing what could happen. If this exercise leaves you wondering that, pay attention to it. And I always say yes more often than no to opportunities. And if you walk away from a date feeling curious still and having a pretty good feeling with uncertainty that maybe there's chemistry or attraction, definitely go on a second date. Even if you walk away from that second date still curious, still having a good time with that person, and still unsure about there's attraction or chemistry, go on a third date. Sometimes it takes time to develop attraction, desire, chemistry. And I've definitely seen it happen for folks that you have to be open to that possibility. So definitely I see it develop, it can happen, but you got to stay open and believe in that possibility. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I hope to see you next week. Please comment, share. If you think this would be helpful for somebody you know, please share it with them, and I'll see you again soon.